All right, here we are. It is Losing Sucks, episode 65. I am your host, Dustin Blanton, along with my co-host, Travis Masterson. And today, Travis, today of all days, it's not just a Tuesday. It's not just a day that we're recording a podcast. You know, we have a very, very special guest with us. We are joined by someone. You have seen him on the Yahoo Fantasy app. You should be reading his articles on Yahoo Sports. We are joined by fantasy football royalty, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we welcome in Fantasy Sports Writers of America, or Writers Association, Hall of Famer and fantasy football legend, Scott Pianowski. Scott, how are you?
What's up?
I'm doing great. That's a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. I just, for my family's sake, I'm just going to say it's actually Pianowski. There's 4 syllables in there.
We were both wrong. I thought it was Pianowski.
It's funny. My former colleagues at Yahoo, Brandon Funston and Brad Evans, awesome guys. They're both Hall of Famers too. They called me Pianowski for years, and I just, whatever, I shrugged. I mean, you know, when Brandon gave me a job, I was just so happy to work with him. Awesome guy, by the way, and so is Brad. But yeah, I'm not hung up on name pronunciations. I mean, I was on the Yahoo Fantasy Football Forecast with Matt Harmon last night, I guess 2 nights ago, when this is finally released. And we were trying to figure out, is it Kamara or Kamara? I think it's Kamara. Matt,
Kamara.
I think, was saying Kamara. But, you know, as long as you spell it right, and you get it right when you pick him, and he scores touchdowns for you, everybody's happy at the end of the day. Anyway, thank you for the intro, and excited to be here and talk some football with you guys.
Of course, appreciate you. Giving us the opportunity. It was a pleasure to briefly speak to you at the Fantasy Football Expo. Not sure. It was a blur for everyone. Not sure if you even remember bumping into me.
Oh, for sure.
The highlight of my whole weekend was watching that auction draft. It was unbelievable to stand there right by the table and see guys that I've read articles and watched videos on for 10 plus years. I'm like, they're right here. This is insane. Yeah, and you guys, the banter back and forth is awesome.
It was a lot of fun, and you know, that's a format. We call it salary cap draft over at Yahoo, but it's, you know, auction is the more common name that people recognize. I just want to say that anybody out there who hasn't tried it, give it a shot. The years I've been playing for a long time. You know, the fact that I got in the Hall of Fame just illustrates that I've been around for a long time. It kind of dates myself. I don't know if it's a feature or a bug at this point, to be honest with you, because I go back to the days when we scored by hand. You know, you get out the newspaper and, you know, you called up somebody else. You said, "Oh, did you score 27 points last week or 28?"
Yeah.
And you tried to hash it out. I mean, we actually thought it was fun. It's actually, fantasy scoring is not fun. It's fun to have the computer do it for you, but the people, I've tried to introduce people into that auction format, and I would say the success rate or the retention rate of people who are like, yeah, this is much more fun, because no more of this, oh, you know, I'm really excited to draft Jonathan Taylor. I got the 10th pick. I'm not getting Jonathan Taylor, or, you know, Justin Jefferson or Cooper Kupp or whoever it is you want.
Right.
And, you know, the guy who gets the 1 pick, he's not getting Devontae Adams, or, you know, he's not getting Jefferson or whatever. I mean, in an auction format, you can have anybody you want. You could have Kupp, Jefferson, and Taylor on the same team. The rest of your team would probably be garbage. But if you can make it work off the waiver wire with $1 players, you can do it. So, you know, sometimes I give long answers when they're not needed. This is one of those times. If you haven't tried the format, just give it a shot. And if you didn't like it, you didn't care for it, you can come to me. And no, you may not care for it because you may screw it up. The other thing with auctions is that things happen fast and furious. And there's a lot of what did I just do in an auction? Because it's not like a draft where you see it coming. Okay, I got a few guys. Okay, oh, this guy lasted. I'll take him. Fine. Yeah, I never feel like a draft shakes me.
Right.
Except maybe if you have like 3 guys on your list and they go boom, 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 then you're like, okay, I wasn't ready for that. But a draft doesn't shake you. An auction will scramble your head, but in all the good ways. It's like playing in the most challenging poker game you've ever been in, and then you walk out and you stumble out of there like, you know, like a cut scene from Rounders, like what just happened? You know, you feel like you just get beat up at the lodge, but in a good way.
Yeah, so, in y'all's draft, we saw Josh Allen go for 25, and then Russell Wilson go for 6. Mm-hmm. I was like, how does this work? And Dustin was trying to tell me, because he's played it before. I haven't played that format. And I got the Wi-Fi on the flight home back to Dallas just so I could do mock drafts on Yahoo of these auction drafts the whole way back. I'm like, I'm addicted to this now. I got to get in one.
Oh, they're so much fun. And also, if you ever look at if anybody observes the final results of an auction, it's a story told out of order. Unlike a regular draft where the best players all come at the start, the first nomination could be Tony Pollard. The first nomination could be Isaiah Pacheco or a defense. I mean, so a lot of times the pricing won't make sense because it's all contextual to who had money at the time, who felt like spending, stuff like that. So you have to keep that in mind. Or somebody sometimes may have like $11 left. They've misjudged the room. And so they spend $11 on the Denver defense. You're like, well, why did they do that? Well, it's because they just wanted to spend all their money.
Might as well.
The walk of shame of any auction is when you don't spend all your money because you can't do anything with it in most formats.
Right.
And you're just like, geez, I could have bought one more good player. Which actually happened to me at the Expo, where I had enough money. I probably had room for one extra oomph player, and I misjudged the market a little bit. But again, that's the good thing. It's a really challenging format. So if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. And if you have tried it, you ever want to talk about the format, hit me on Twitter. I'd love to talk to you about it.
End up spending $18 on DJ Chark. I understand. That is awesome. It was really cool to seeing you guys do that at the Expo. One thing we didn't get a chance to do a lot of was something that from what we've heard, is something that you partake in, Scott. We didn't get a chance to play any shuffleboard.
Travis, I have a very specific question for you, from one of our new friends and one of your older friends. Oh, let's see here. Here's the question.
Okay.
Who are the reigning shuffleboard champions at your favorite bar, and why is it not you and Brad Evans?
Yeah, this is obviously an Andy Behrens question. So this is what happened. There's a bar in Santa Monica. Is it the Daily Pint? I think it's called the Daily Pint. It became kind of our go-to when we would have Yahoo meetings. Again, this dates back to the Funston era, to the Evans era. They're awesome guys.
Nice.
Brandon is at the Athletic now. Brad's done a bunch of things. Also, get well, Brad. He just recently was in a bike accident. He's on the rehab.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Front. Great guy, and he's a real tough son of a gun. I'm sure he'll be back in a Brad Evans groove soon. So we ended up at this bar. And we're doing what you do at a bar. You drink, you tell stories. If you're me, I go over to the jukebox and spend every cent I have because I'm just crazy like that. And they had this bar shuffleboard game, and it turns out this specific night, the actor Jason Patrick was at the shuffleboard game and was kind of monopolizing it. I had a few adult beverages. I went up to Patrick and I said, "Hey, first of all, I loved you in Smoke Jumpers, which was the fictitious movie that he's in the TV series Entourage. I don't know if anybody ever saw that.
Yeah.
Entourage hasn't really aged well. I'm not sure you could make Entourage in the year 2022.
Not at
anyway,
all. Right.
Back then, it was kind of a fresh thing for Patrick. He was in this fake movie. So I said, "I loved you in Smoke Jumpers. You're great." So he laughs. And
what a great intro.
Yeah, that was my intro. I loved you in Smoke Jumpers. One of my fantasy football teams is still called Smoke Jumpers. But anyway, so I talked to him for a minute or two. I said, "Hey, we were looking to play a game. I'm not sure how long you guys are going to be playing." He said, "Oh, yeah, we're just playing one more game and we're going to leave." And so I said, cool. I walked away, and I guess he went to shake my hand or fist bump me or something, and I didn't notice it. And it looked like I was just big timing him. Like, I'm not shaking your hand, Patrick. So for the rest of the trip, I was known as the guy who big time Jason Patrick. Who just went over to Patrick, shoved him off the shuffleboard table, and then just said, "No, I'm not shaking your hand. I'm out of here." I just didn't notice it.
Fake movie, sir.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're great in a fake movie. Why don't you make a real movie that people like? So, okay, that's all true. And it was fun. And then what happened is Evans and I ended up being teammates, and we won, I don't know, 7-8 games in a row. We ruled the table that night, and it became known that if we were to go back there, Evans and I were going to partner up. And so I don't know. I mean this honestly. And I realize people listening don't care, but Behrens. This will get back to Behrens.
It's a great.
He's got his ears to the grindstone. So I have to talk.
The
word
"raining" was in all caps, by the way.
Yeah, I have to talk a little smack to Behrens.
I
always say to Behrens, look. What are Brad and I lifetime at that game? 29-4 or something? I mean, we have a ridiculous record, like a Walter Johnson Cy Young record, But one time, him and I think Jeff Erickson beat us, and Behrens has never let us. It was like NC State. I'm dating myself again. NC State winning the NCAA title in 1983, or the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals, the year they won 83 games, they won the World Series. I think that was 2005 or 6, something like that. They really weren't that good. They just get in the tournament. Basically Behrens and Erickson. I'm not even sure if it was Erickson. I know Behrens was part of the team, and Erickson hasn't been dining out on this forever since, but Behrens has. They had their moment, they had the big upset and they're living off it.
Yeah.
And
So they are the reigning champs.
Yeah. All I know is this. All I know is this, Andy. You get any partner you want. You get Funston, you get Erickson, you get Jason Kabak, our editor, you get Jason Patrick for all I care.
Yeah.
I'll get Evans. You pick the bar, you pick the amount, whether it's cash, whether it's tangible items, memorabilia, pink slips. I don't care. It's your Artist Gilmore memorabilia collection. I'll throw
I want to
down,
fly. I want to fly there to watch this live.
because we have
Let him have
spent our, it's like when the Yankees. I grew up a Red Sox fan, and I remember the Yankees, the Red Sox were in a playoff series before the curse was reversed, and the Red Sox won in 2004. And I think I forget who it was. One of the Yankee coaches, it would have been Yogi Berra, said to Derek Jeter, "Don't worry, we've been beating these guys for 50 years. You get nothing to worry about. We're going to win this game too." And that's basically where I come down on the big shuffleboard debate. Is I've been beating Barons for 15 years at this game. Yeah, he may have. He may win once in a while. That's happened. The victory he spoke of did happen, but I'm sure if I played him 10 times, he's 1-9. So congratulations, Andy.
Is it a specific game at this bar, or can you find this game many places?
Yeah, it's many places. But that's the best board. I've played other places where it's not as. You have the little puck, the little hockey puck.
You're talking real shuffleboard. It's not an electronic game.
No, it's almost like a version of like bocce, kind of like you want to throw the puck as far as you can down the alleyway without going into over the edge.
We've got that all over Texas. I love that game.
Yeah, and so whoever has the puck closest to the edge, and then subsequent pucks get certain amount of points. I'm not even sure we were scoring correctly, but we established some sort of form of scoring. And so it's like you want to get. The team that just recently scored has to throw first because that's a disadvantage, and you want to get your puck in good position, and then you want to set up like a blocking puck so they can't get to it. And the last throw of every sequence is really exciting because you could be sitting on like multiple points, and then if the other guy throws the right puck and it knocks a bunch of stuff out like a bowling shot, all of a sudden it could totally change the complexion of the scoring. But man,
I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I love all those. Any game that, I mean. Especially at my age now. I mean, I was an athletic kid growing up. You wouldn't know it looking at me now, but I played at just about everything. But now I play the things that you play when you're older. I play golf. I play shuffleboard. I play darts. I play pool. I like all that stuff.
You play the precision games. You play the precision games.
The precision
games.
Yeah,
exactly. Got to give them some credit. Like
everyone. My wedge game was strong today. I'm good at stuff like that. If the game requires touch, I cannot. There was at the expo. There was a flag football game. I would have been all over that at a different part of my life. Now it's just I can throw accurately. I can catch it if you throw it to me, but I can't run away from anybody right now. I don't. My arm isn't as strong as it used to be, so I didn't belong in that. I guess C.D. Carter is still getting picked on because he threw an interception for the first snap for the Roto World team. Yep. They played 2 snaps, 1 interception. Yep. They allowed a completion. They were off the field.
Yeah, so, I played in that game. Or I played in that.
Did you really?
I did.
This is why you got to get to the expo, man. Anybody who hasn't been, it's just
awesome.
we're having fun. We're playing football. We're drafting. We're having a drink or two. We're making new friends. We're making new connections. We're talking about the game. I was on the auction panel that Drew Davenport ran with some awesome guys. Jody Smith and Doug Orth was on that panel, and one other person I can't remember the name right now. But that was so much fun. We had great just walk up for that and the questions and everything. It's just a convention of really good people, of old friends, new friends. The industry is getting more diverse. There's an awesome kick-ass panel of women fantasy analysts. And that was standing room only. You literally couldn't get a seat in that room because of how cool those ladies are. So. We're in a really good place fantasy-wise as the industry is going, and that's because of people like Andy Behrens, who's the FSWA president. It's because of people like Bob Lung, who runs the Expo, Scott Fish, who runs the Fish Bowl. Just people like that.
They work their butt off to put that thing.
They're awesome people, and I just I salute all of them because they are the backbone of what makes this industry great.
Yep.
Could not agree more, man.
All right, let's talk some football, Dustin.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh yeah, forget. Yeah, we're not just here to talk about electric shuffleboard. Okay, this is the. We are.
I don't know why in my head I thought you went up to him and were asking him like, "Are you done with this game?" And I'm like, because in Texas, like I went to TCU in Fort Worth. We had a shuffleboard bar right by TCU, and you just go up and you play the winner.
The winners, yes.
Yeah, it's you just kind of
most bar things are like that. Like you're playing pool, the winners play all night. Yeah,
that's why when you were like, you asked him if he's done here, I was like, you got to beat him. But if
it's
like a one person,
I may have even challenged him. For all I know, I may have challenged Jason Patrick. It's been a while now.
You know, at what point does it get to be annoying that you're winning so much? Though it's like, yeah, like I wanted to play a couple games. Like now I can't. Winning. I
losing
can't
sucks.
just leave.
Losing, right. Losing. There's a podcast name. Have you tried Losing Sucks?
We'll try it. We're gonna workshop some things.
Okay.
But we do have some stuff to get into. We've done our research. Obviously, we just love your stuff as well. Just whatever. Without you joining the podcast, we read it. One of the things that stuck out to me, Scott, you have an article that you let out recently. You call it your all boring team, and a couple of names stuck out. One of them that I wanted to bring up was Nick Chubb. You bring him up on your all boring team. One of the questions I wanted to ask you though is, can you kind of give us some insight and tell us how you factor in like things like strength of schedule or when you're evaluating players? Because recently on the podcast we've had previous guests tell us Nick Chubb is one of the guys that they're keying in on to have a hot start with his schedule. Is there anything like that factors into your decision making, or any other things that you take into consideration?
Well, I'll admit that the Cleveland schedule had nothing to do with Nick Chubb making the all boring team. It was just a matter of that I thought he's at a career arc where people are not as interested in Chubb. He doesn't catch a lot of passes. The big story, obviously, in Cleveland the whole offseason has been the Deshaun Watson circus. They may have the weakest team with Watson out, and I mean, I just wish they hadn't signed him. I hate talking about Watson, and I don't want to get all moralistic on it, but it's just not a good look for the league or for the team.
It's not fun.
They traded a bunch for him. They gave a big contract, and he's obviously done some stuff that he deserves to pay a penalty for. They finally agreed on that penalty, and so hopefully we can all move forward. But I would have liked if he sat out the whole season.
Yeah, I think everybody's in that boat
for sure. So, as far as schedule goes, and I'm glad you brought up the early schedule. And again, I haven't grinded the Cleveland schedule, but I actually have a different take on scheduling than a lot of people do. I think there's some people who just don't take it that seriously, and there's other people who say, oh, I'm going to gang up on this great December schedule this team has. Look, they're playing all these weak defenses and everything. And my feeling is the NFL, and that may be true in some cases. I mean, maybe what we expect to happen will happen in some cities with some defenses. I think the NFL is a snow globe league, and just so much chaos is going to go on, and injuries, and defensive schemes are going to gel, and defensive schemes are going to fall apart, and some cities will have bad weather in December, but who's to say? And remember the last couple of years has been COVID cancellations. The schedule's actually changed at times. Yeah. My feeling is get off to a good start. If you're going to grind anything, one of my favorite fantasy expressions is I play fantasy football with a microscope, not a telescope. And that is, I want to look really closely at what's in front of me and try to figure out what's going on with it. I don't want to look months ahead, which in NFL is such a long period of time, and try to guess. I get it. We think the Texans are going to stink, or we think the Lions will probably have a losing record. The Bears don't look very good. No, but every year in the NFL, there are teams that finish last the previous season who make the playoffs. There are teams that made the playoffs who don't, and a lot of it is just the variance of the game. The way the ball bounces. Last year the Ravens, who were almost always in the playoffs every year, didn't make it. They had an unbelievable run of injuries. I think most people think they'll be back this year. Yeah. There's just so much you can't know. So when it comes to scheduling, if I'm going to look at strength of schedule at all, I would look at maybe the early part of the schedule. Like the Denver defense has been one of my favorite picks. It's really simple. Yes. They open the season at Seattle, and then they host Houston. And I think, looking through my microscope, not my telescope, I think Seattle and Houston are poor teams. Although I have a little bit of a thing for Davis Mills. I think he's not that bad.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're getting two back-to-back 15-point weeks from your defense.
Yes, and then I'll worry about week 3 and week 3. I cannot even tell you who's Denver's playing in week 15. I want to be 4-1. I want to be 3-0. I want to be somebody who's in a position of leverage early in the season, and then I can make those 2-for-1 trades where you're obviously benefiting, or I can pick off guys off the waiver wire because I don't need to win at all costs in week 6. I think getting off to a fast start is underrated. I think look, you want to be in the playoffs. I get it, and when there's a time to plan for the playoffs, there's a time I'll do it. I'm just not going to do it in August.
Right.
No, that's a good point, and it terrifies me. We just had our home league draft, and I always leave with this. I feel like I'm like gaslighting myself into being optimistic about my team every year. I'm like, man, I did a really great job, and then 15 minutes will go by. I'm like, but did I really? Did I really
That's
do
a
a good
home league
job?
for you, though.
We're very competitive, and especially I like that take. I like that advice that you look at it with a microscope instead of a telescope. That's because you get so many guys that are talking about, well, this playoff matchup, and we have to plan for this. Like you have to get there first. You have especially you just great example, the Browns offense. You have 11 games where the starting guy that they thought they were going to have is not going to be there. Like you could draft Amari Cooper at any point, and then that you could very well be burning a pick. Heck, we've talked to people who have him as their wide receiver 50. So it is a wild ride.
So much stuff you won't know too. I mean, for all we know, a month from now, Kareem Hunt could be getting 35 or 40% of the touches in Cleveland, or could not be a Cleveland Brown at all.
Right.
Those are both on the table, I think.
Yeah.
By the way, Dearness Johnson, one of my favorite. If you're in a medium or deeper league and you're looking for a dart throw, I think he can play. He's somebody I would take. And again, a lot of those dart throws you're going to end up dropping anyway, and maybe you can't wait. I think Dearness Johnson may have a relevant moment this year, and I think the Browns like him. I think they paid him a lot for ostensibly a third-string running back. I don't think they view him as a third-string running back. I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to be on the team past this year, and maybe he'll be traded. It could take an injury somewhere else. I mean, trades don't happen that often. The NFL after the trading cycle kind of happens.
Yeah,
but
Cleveland might be in a spot where they say, we might as well. We gave up a lot. Let's get some picks back.
For sure. And what happens if, say the Buccaneers lose Leonard Fournette tomorrow, or say the Rams
Immediate
lost Cam Akers,
trade.
so an obvious. The sad thing is that Kareem Hunt would probably fit the Ravens best of all, and you would think Cleveland and Baltimore would be unlikely to trade. What if the Colts lost Jonathan Taylor and they said, we don't have the right replacement here. Kareem Hunt makes sense. I think maybe it might be an injury that opens up the windows for a Hunt trade. Sure. Of course, Hunt could get hurt himself too. We know how much attrition is at the running back position, but this just underscores the original point, which is that it's a snow globe league. Let's try to make good decisions, and let's just not say that everything's random, because there are some patterns, and we want to still make good choices.
Right.
But let's not pretend that we can look into December and say, "Oh yeah, I know how this is going to work out," because just so much of it is unknowable right now.
Do you play to follow up on that microscope mindset? Do you play Dynasty?
A little bit, not very much. I would not claim to be a Dynasty expert.
This is my my second season, my first full off season playing Dynasty. And I play it kind of with that same mindset of I want to play with what's right in front of me. I want to win now. I will trade future draft picks and rookies. Give me the 1 to 2 year window. If things aren't going my way, then I can move a vet to a contending team I can always get the picks back. But I got bashed for it, and we're seeing, including Dustin, he's starting to. He was obsessed with rookies and picks, and now he's starting to see.
I love picks. It's
only addiction. Fun if you're competitive, because then you wait an entire offseason to still not know if you're competitive, because things are changing so quick.
Things do change so quick. I got in. I forget who ran it. Somebody ran a Best Ball Dynasty draft and a Best Ball Dynasty Superflex draft that I did. It started last year. And one of the managers in the league is my good friend Michael Salfino. We actually do a podcast called The Breakfast Table. That it's a very small fee for that. If you like anything that we're talking about here today, check that out. Mike and I we kind of argue like an old friend. People call us an old married couple. We're not married. He's married to somebody else. I have my own girlfriend.
That's just good chemistry.
Yeah, it's good chemistry that we argue a little bit with each other. We have different viewpoints. Yeah. He's more of a stat person. I'm more of a market manipulation person. But anyway, we get this keeper league, dynasty league last year, and they're doing a slow draft. And he starts getting on my case because I'm drafting like I do most keeper leagues. I draft like the league is going to disband at the end of the season. I'm just trying to pick the best team.
A lot of them do.
The end is near.
Right. Yeah, a lot of them do. And that's a lot of times a turnoff for me sometimes in keeper leagues. It's like one guy's leaving the league and says, goes to his buddy and hands him like 3 players or something. But you got to make sure you have to have solid managers when you get in a keeper league, because you're only as strong as that the weak managers, they can affect any league, but they can really ruin a keeper or dynasty league if you don't have the right people in it. So make sure you know who you're getting involved with. But anyway, yeah, Mike's giving me crap because I was doing exactly what you said you do. I was playing what's in front of me.
Play to win. If you win that first year or second year, you've paid your league dues for the next 7-8 years.
For sure. And this year in these leagues, we did our rookie draft and everything, and I'm afraid to go back and look at where Dameon Pierce probably went because I don't think he went that early. I'm sure. So I cashed in one of the leagues. I think I came in second. So I'm like, oh, this kind of stinks. I have rotten position for rookie picks. Right. I'm sure I could have had Dameon Pierce. I just didn't know that Dameon Pierce was Dameon Pierce yet. Or I could have had Isaiah Pacheco. I didn't know that Isaiah Pacheco was Isaiah Pacheco yet. Well, and we'll see.
So should people wait to do their rookie draft until right before they do their real draft or after?
That's a great question.
Or all one draft right before?
I think there's no right or wrong. I think it's fun to draft early. It's fun to draft, middle of the summer. It's fun to draft late. The thing about drafting early is that if you connect dots, if you're like, for example, J.J. Zacharyson, great member of the industry, he's been on Pacheco really early. So he was scooping him up at like the bare minimum cost. He wrote him up in his draft guide and all that. Mm-hmm. Now you have to elbow people out of the way for Pacheco. You could even argue that the market's corrected too much. Maybe he's a bad pick now, depending on where the slot is.
Where would you have him against guys like James Cook and Alexander Madison?
What's the format?
Standard scoring.
Ooh, man, that's a great question. They'd all be in the same bucket. This is a really cop-out answer. I'd like to have exposure to all three of them. The thing is, I don't think Madison's capable, as long as he stays in Minnesota, which I don't see any reason why he won't be. He really needs to have an injury to Cook, or else he's just what we call a handcuff or an insurance guy or something like that.
Yeah, he's not playable at all.
He can't. He doesn't have standalone value.
Right.
We would like to think maybe Pacheco could have standalone value. Maybe he could steal the job from CEH. I don't think anybody at this point thinks CEH is a special player.
Right.
Was probably overdrafted by the Chiefs. God knows he was overdrafted in fantasy. Williams opted out, and people thought, okay, it's go time. It's Andy Reid. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's the Chiefs.
Over Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, man, it's hard to believe, right? But that's the way football is.
Yeah.
Cook. The thing that threw me with Cook in Buffalo is I thought they were done with Zach Moss in the sense I thought he may not make the team. He's not going to be a factor. And the drumbeat of Zach Moss having a role, and who knows, maybe that will or won't come to pass when the games actually count. But the fact, and maybe they're trying to talk him up, maybe they want to trade him.
I've seen him get picked up on a lot of dynasty waiver wires.
I thought Zach Moss was kind of okay. This isn't happening. He can't play. Singletary's a good player, but he's undersized. He's barely 200 pounds. We need another guy. Cook obviously has a good pedigree. His brother is in Minnesota, is one of the stars of the league. So,
does he play up there? Oh, that's good.
I didn't see the Moss getting relevant again. But that's the great thing about fantasy football and running backs, right? Is that
changes
guys that guys who are given up on for dead, or guys who we thought for fullbacks. We all remember. Who's the guy? Peyton Hillis, right? Peyton Hillis had that one season where he goes to the Pro Bowl. He gets up on the cover of Madden. And he's totally irrelevant for the rest of his career.
I remember one year C.J. Anderson?
C.J. Anderson had a 2-month. I won a league because of C.J. Anderson. The guy who I beat, I eked into the playoffs at 7-6. I had, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not proud of this, but it was a league that I wasn't paying a ton of attention to. I was just in a lot of leagues. It was on a format and a platform I didn't spend a lot of time on. So the week that C.J. Anderson was available, I had a lot of fab resources that other people didn't. I'm like, I obviously need a running back. This plant has not been watered in a month. So I went all in for C.J. Anderson. He went crazy. I eked into the playoffs, and then he just basically won the title for me. And the person I beat, I don't want to call him out because he's a good guy and he's in the industry, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm
in his darkest hour. Yeah.
But he's still giving me crap about him. You and your C.J. Anderson. Your team was garbage, You shouldn't have been in the playoffs. Blah,
the
blah,
unsung heroes. They live in infamy.
It's happened to me last year. I was in a league. I went 15-1 or something like that. The guy did not pay attention. He had a super team. He drafted a super team and left it. Didn't pay attention. The first week of the playoffs, he decides to set a lineup, and then I lose. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, that I understand. Like, you just, if you're gonna leave, just stay gone.
Right. In a really competitive league that I've been in for years is a guy named Mark Stopa, who used to do some work for RotoWire. He's bounced around the industry. He's used to be a lawyer. He does some different stuff now. one year he decided to start the Stopa Law Firm League back when he was a lawyer, and he put up a bunch of money, his own money, and invited all these RotoWire and Yahoo guys, and we was a Superflex auction, and a few years we went to Vegas and did it, and one year it was awesome league. I won the first year, Russell Wilson's rookie year. He was the first guy auctioned off. Funston wanted him. He's a Seattle guy. And I had become friendly with Doug Farrar, who at the time, I don't remember if he was with Football Outsiders or he might have been working for Yahoo. Doug's been with a couple of different outfits, Sports Illustrated. I think he's, I forget who he's with now. Maybe for the Win, maybe. He's written a great book called The Genius of Desperation. Doug Farrar's a really smart football guy and somebody you should follow if you can. Anyway, I'm on a radio show with Farrar in the summer.
Oh, cool.
And just as a one-off. And he's telling me, I know that the Seahawks paid a lot for Matt Flynn. Russell Wilson's going to be their quarterback. He's going to be a star in this league. I know he's a third-round pick. I know he's not that tall and everything, but he's going to be great. And so, okay.
Some valuable insight.
Armed with this information from Farrar, and I love giving him the credit, I basically became, second on the bandwagon. It was all Doug. But I jumped on, sat next to him, and, said, hey, Russell Wilson, and then I saw Russell Wilson play a preseason game against Kansas City, and he was unbelievable. I'm like, oh my God, Doug's right. Yes. This guy's going to be great. Yes. So I made sure I got him. Long story short, I ended up winning the league that year. Beat Dalton Del Don in the finals. Wilson actually had a kind of a tepid rookie year because they didn't give him the keys to the offense, but he went ballistic down the stretch. He was really, really good in December and showcased that he was going to be a star someday. So I win the league that year. I come in second the next year. And I forget if it was this year or the year after, but one year, Stopa, the guy who ran this league, the guy who put up all the extra money, he had the best team in the league by far. And he had one of the great Gronkowski years, and he had maybe the number one quarterback that year. He just had, by points scored, he was so far ahead of everybody else.
Yep.
And I got in the playoffs as the 6-5 or 6 with this little MacGyver team held together by scotch tape and glue. And I play Stopa in the semifinals. And it's all house money because he's supposed to win. He's got the loaded team.
Yeah,
and I got this crummy little wild card team. And I played Matt Castle that week, Superflex. I played Jordan Todman that week. He was
God.
Like one week of relevance pickup. Jordan Todman. And it just so happened Stopa's team had an off week. Castle did just enough. Todman might have had 80 yards and a touchdown. He didn't go crazy or anything.
Wow.
And the whole week he's like, you beat me with Matt freaking Castle and Jordan freaking Todman. He still will say, if I would say, hey, Mark, remember that playoff game? He'd go, yeah, Matt Castle, Jordan Todman. I remember it. That was the best team I've ever had.
Like Jalen Samuels a few years ago.
Yeah, right. So the takeaway to this for me, because I know a lot of people will say, well, the joy of fantasy is that time I had the best team and I went undefeated and all that. And I'm not saying that isn't fun. But for me, the true joy of fantasy is when the other guy has the team and you beat him because you picked up the right defense. You beat him because you hooked up. One year Billy Volek and Drew Bennett went bananas in the fantasy playoffs, and if you got that connection, it probably you probably beat some teams you weren't supposed to beat. I think that's more satisfying. When I like Jonathan Taylor as much as the next guy, or Justin Jefferson as much as the next guy. But when you beat him with Matt Castle and Jordan Todman, man, you leave a mark. Yeah. It's really fun.
I call that.
They never forget chaos. Those names.
They don't forget. No, they don't.
Yeah, man. It's. You only need one game like that, man. It all it takes is one for it to change your. We've got a. It's actually Travis's father. We drafted him, and he's a big Nick Foles guy. Ever since he won a championship with Nick Foles, Foles
he beat me in the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. I was like, you gotta be.
I'm a Patriots fan. Nick Foles beat us in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Brady threw for 505. They never punted, and they somehow lost. I don't. Nobody's gonna feel sorry for Tom Brady, but Nick Foles.
Poor guys.
Nick Foles is awesome too. There's a guy named Sam Farmer who's a LA Times sports writer. I'm friendly with on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I believe he's a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And his pinned tweet is a quote from Nick Foles talking about how important it is in life just to make mistakes and screw up and own those mistakes. And that's how you learn. That's how you grow. And it's such an awesome quote. I think Nick Foles is just one of the most relatable guys in the NFL.
He gets signed immediately. Every year now.
He's a great backup. He's a great room guy. He can play if he needs to. And let's not forget, not only did he win that championship after Wentz, who was probably going to be the MVP, got hurt, but Nick Foles, I'll never forget this. He also had a 27 touchdown, 2 interception season. Yeah. With a quarterback rating of 119 or something like that. He had one of the great one-off, where did this come from?
Kelly's team?
Chip Kelly. Yeah. Chip Kelly, right. Great call. And, I'm for Nick Foles, man. Nick Foles is a positive guy. He's had ups, he's had downs, he's had injuries, he's been kicked around, he's bounced around the league, he's been booed, He's but he's he's still in there slinging it and doing the best he can. And then there's a lesson to that. If I'm a good fantasy player now, it's because of things I did wrong. I think one of the first drafts I was in, we were the first team to take a kicker, and the whole room laughed. And you know why they laughed? Because it was really freaking stupid.
Yeah.
But but I was allowed to make my mistake in 1993 with nobody else except for 9 buddies around me.
Wow.
That's how we learn, is by doing things wrong and trying to learn from them.
Absolutely. And exactly, making mistakes. One mistake that I don't want to make though this year, and I need help figuring this guy out, Scott, because I don't know if it's a mistake to take Gabe Davis this year. Like,
are you in?
Are you in 6th, 7th, 8th round? What is too expensive? Is he going to catch 4 touchdowns and 208 yards every game?
Great question. He I think after the first round, because people talk the most about the first round players, I think Gabe Davis, maybe after the first 2 rounds, Gabe Davis might be the most talked about player in fantasy. And actually, I mentioned the Breakfast Table podcast. Michael Salfino and I just did our wide receiver preview, and we got in a really long debate on Davis. And man, I hate the side I come down on, because it's not the fun side. I mean, look, the last thing he did is he had a 4-touchdown game in the NFL's game of the year that everybody watched together.
Right. Yes.
Nobody will ever forget that football game.
Classic game.
One of the best games I've ever seen. It may be the best non-Super Bowl I've ever seen. I think the Super Bowl is in their own category. But what a football game! And Davis was the star of the game. He had 4 touchdowns. But and Salfino's take was, okay, well, there's significance to that. You can't have a 4-touchdown game in a playoffs and not be a great player. The Bill James term, significance. And I actually agree for the most part with the point that Mike's making. But the problem I have is that I think what Gabe Davis did and what he's expected to do this year has been baked in so heavily to his ADP that I need to draft him like he's already a star. And I'm uncomfortable doing that. So, okay, I'm in a 12-team start from fresh league. You're starting 3 receivers. Gabe Davis might percolate in the 4th. He'll probably go in the 5th. And that's just an eyelash too early for me. If I get him in the 6th round, I'd be fine.
Hollywood,
right around them.
Mooney, those guys. Are you taking all those guys over Gabe?
Again, this sounds like a cop-out. At some point, I'll probably do the FOMO and take 1 Gabe Davis share, just so if he's awesome, I'm not left out of it. But I think he's like a half round to a round too expensive for my taste. And they have so many good players there. Obviously, Diggs is one of the best receivers, one of the best route runners. Shout out to Matt Harmon, who does all that perception stuff, and he's been on Diggs since the moment
he feels like the only one in that offense that going into that week at 11:55 or Central Time, 5 minutes before kickoff, Diggs is going to get his. Outside of him, it's a roulette with the Bills offense. For sure. I mean, Dawson. I almost said Hunter Knox. Dawson Knox, is mostly touchdown deodorant last year, but he had a breakout season. What if Ole Miss had a quarterback? They once had DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and Dawson Knox. I know Knox was hurt a little bit, and I think Knox actually played quarterback in high school. He may have even been
Elijah
a quarterback.
Moore.
Yeah. I love the former quarterbacks. The Patriots want a team of them, right? Jacoby Myers, Julian Edelman. They always love that. And then you find out, like, Odell Beckham is left-handed because he just threw an option pass. But, Buffalo, man, I mean, look, the funny thing is, and Mike kind of laughed at me when I said this, the part of their receiving room that I'm most likely to draft, it needs to be a deeper league, but I probably have more Isaiah McKenzie than anybody else, only because he's just so inexpensive. If you like McKenzie, you're more likely to get him. I mean, there's certain draft slots. Again, if you pick second in your draft, you'll never get Diggs. You won't take him second. He won't be there when you come back to you. I'm kind of a McKenzie guy. I can't believe that's not Crowder. I thought all offseason. And I'm a Crowder fan, too. That's a great sign. What a great sign for them. Yeah, and then McKenzie all camp. It's him? Is it going to be McKenzie? Like, that's really my question. We're not sure. We think so, but we're not positive, right? I feel like Crowder's got to be the guy, He's so good. Isaiah McKenzie's been around for how long? 6 years or something like that? Right. And you think, what's Crowder good at, right? He's a really good space guy. He's a zone beater. Right. He's a great third down player. He's a classic veteran. He gets open, moves the chains. He's not going to demand. He's not going to run to the press and be like, "Hey, why did I get 3 targets this week?" He's just a really good character guy. I always liked him at Washington. I thought he was good in the Jets too. Mm-hmm. So maybe Crowder. Maybe you buy the dip on Crowder. I mean, the point here with Buffalo is that, and I'm not going to be the first team to take a quarterback in a fantasy draft, so I'm out on Josh Allen. I hate saying that. I mean, if I had to bet my life on who would be the most valuable fantasy quarterback, I think you'd have to bet Josh Allen, or probably at least consider him. But I can't take him with the position so stocked in the league where you only start one. If you start two, it's different. The calculus totally changes. But I'll have draft slots where I don't get Diggs. I've said that I'm not going to take Allen. I've said that maybe the price on Davis is a little bit too high for me. It's like, but man, these are the Bills. They're the Super Bowl favorites. I got to have some piece of this. So maybe it's McKenzie. Maybe it's Crowder. Maybe I actually, I feel a little bit isolated on this. I'm not as down on Devin Singletary as a lot of people are. I like the way he finished last year. I know that they don't view him as
he can play.
He can play, and we're in a league of platoons. I just hope they can reduce that. Here's the thing with backfields with me. Look, you want a bell cow. Great. There's like 5 of them. You can get one of them, go knock yourself out. Everybody else is sharing. Even the second round, you're going to take a guy who shares. I said I like Nick Chubb. He's going to share.
Yeah.
But the thing with backfields is, it used to be, again, I'm dating myself, that we wanted the primary back, the bell cow. And if a team had a running back by committee, they used the second guy, you ran away from that. Now it's 2 and 3. If you can reduce the backfield to 2 guys, that's fine. If you have to go to 3 guys, that's a problem. So what I'm really hoping is I have some Singletary shares. It's not like I stocked up on them, but I'm hoping this becomes a 2-man backfield where I can say to myself every week when, again, 5 minutes before kickoff or whenever you do your lineups, Saturday night, Sunday morning, is Devin Singletary going to get 12 to 15 touches on one of the best offenses in the league today? Do I feel good about that? Okay, great. He's a very playable running back too.
Yeah.
I'd love him to be that. Maybe he won't be, and maybe the people who are fading him will be, told you should have taken Moss, you should have taken Cook, you should have...
Maybe Singletary and Cook will outplay Moss enough to where it becomes a 2-man.
I hope they reduce it to 2. What I also think is possible, there's no way to know this, and I don't even think the Bills know this. I think it's possible that Allen gives up some of the rushing as he gets older, more mature. Hey, look, man, don't throw your body, in harm's way to try to beat the Dolphins in Week 3. We need you in January when we're trying to win the Super Bowl.
You need to be a hero, early in the season.
Well, and especially he's gotten a taste of that in the last few seasons, a taste of being deep in the playoffs, and this is all that matters.
That's why one thing, I think sportsbooks have kind of caught up to it, but one of my favorite things for the last few years has been to hit the quarterback rushing props in the playoffs, because I always felt I never did the math on this, and somebody's probably done it. And again, if there's an angle, the sportsbooks will catch up to it quickly enough. But I always felt that quarterbacks there'd be a little bit more of that YOLO running element in the playoffs, where it's like, well, what am I saving myself for? If we lose, I got the whole off season. So
you play to win the game.
Exactly.
That's right.
Herm Edwards, great man
for sure. Great Hall of Famer, man. Yeah, it's speaking of Devin Singletary, then we're going to move on. You could do worse than I don't think that James Cook is the guy to carry the load for that team. I think you could do worse than a compact, guy that has a nose for the end zone in Devin Singletary. And where you're getting him, really, what are you losing? In terms of where you're having to take him. But one guy, and then we'll move on. I just need someone to comfort me on. You've already touched on Isaiah Pacheco. I need someone to comfort me on Travis Etienne. I need someone just to tell me he's going to be great. I need someone to tell me that he is DeAndre Swift. I need you to be that guy, Scott. I need you to tell me that. Don't hurt me.
Give him the truth.
Right,
the truth.
Well, I am more in on ETN than not in. I'm certainly not at the front of the ETN bandwagon, but I'm more in on him. I did give him a good ranking and write-up when I did the running back primer maybe 10 days ago or something. Go read that on Yahoo if you haven't checked it out.
Definitely
I talked
check
about
it out.
The 3 different running back builds. Do you like robust RB? Do you like anchor RB or hero RB? Do you like zero RB? I'm a get one guy you really like and then load up receivers. A big thing with me, I'll get back to ETN in a second, especially if you're in a league that starts 3 receivers. Okay, and we're talking about managed leagues, the leagues that you have to set a lineup, not best ball. Because in best ball, you can just take a bunch of receivers, you'll get the best of it. If it's the McCole Hardman week, his 1 week out of 5, you'll get it.
Congrats.
Right.
But in seasonal, you got to call the shot ahead of time. And so my goal in a managed seasonal league, which in every league I play in has 3 receivers standard, I want those receivers to start themselves. I want a really strong receiver room And so I'm not guessing, oh, is this the Jacoby Myers week or is this the Alan Lazard week? Although maybe he'll graduate and he'll be, outside of that guessing game. But, is this the Zay Jones week or something like that?
I like that wording, the guys who start themselves.
Exactly.
I have not heard that. I really like that.
You want a strong receiver room. Doesn't mean you have to take all receivers to start. I like one running back I can hang my hat on. Mm-hmm. Probably a first or second round pick. It could be Chubb. It could be a lot of Aaron Jones. I would take Taylor early for sure.
Yeah.
But back to ETN.
Yes.
Okay. The good thing is he got hurt early. If you're going to get hurt early, have all the rehab time. The Robinson injury, and I'm a James Robinson fan too, was much later.
Right.
And they had there's a lot of bad coaching in the NFL. I think it's harder to be a positive coach than it is to be. I think this is a lot of coaches just don't help. The game's so complicated.
Right.
There are very few coaches that really move the needle. Sean McVay moves the needle. Bill Belichick moves the needle. Andy Reid, John Harbaugh. That's why these guys, stay in the same place for such a long time. But we know this. It works the other way, too. Urban Meyer, who was a great college coach, and for whatever reason, he could lord over his players, and he had great assistants and whatever. Horrible. I'm piling on here because you all saw it. He was awful on game day. He was awful during the walk-up. He was awful in the bars. He was awful kicking his kicker. Just the way he handled his play. He just did not understand.
The stuff we heard was wild.
Yeah, it's got to the point where any Urban Meyer story you were told sounded plausible. He joined the Tyson zone. You just believe it. Urban Meyer kicked his kicker. Yeah, okay. Urban Meyer roped a woman in a bar. Yeah, I guess it happened.
Yeah.
It's Urban Meyer. So
yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know how good of a coach Doug Peterson is. I know he has a Super Bowl under his belt, but he's got to be better than Urban Meyer. I can't believe every scout was wrong about Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Lawrence and ETN played together at Clemson. I don't think ETN's another CEH. I think he's a much more explosive player. I like the reports I'm getting. I mean, again, for what it's worth, it's not like I'm at practice and everything. And I realize in preseason, so few players of consequence get on the field anymore because everybody's so worried about injuries. I'm old enough to remember when the preseason, the guys would play and you could watch them and make your own judgments. Now there's so little of that. But, I like to say green light, yellow light, red light on players. Green light is totally proactive, wheels up, let's do it. Yellow light is kind of somewhere in the middle. Red light is I'm not going to take him. Tyreek Hill is a red light player for me.
Me too.
I think ETN is like a yellow plus, where I could take him. I'm not at the head of the bandwagon, but I'd like a seat. Save me a seat. I'd like some ETN. I think I'll at least be at market share of ETN, maybe a little bit more, because I think the Jaguars, much like I think the Lions are getting a lot of pub. It's oh, okay, they covered 11 games last year. They're on Hard Knocks. Dan Campbell's kind of fun. Jared Goff's not that bad. Swift's good, and the Sun God was St. Brown was awesome, and Hawkinson's pretty good. And they have other receivers we like. Jameson Williams might be good someday. I think the Jaguars are like the poor man's version of the Lions, where they're going to be frisky. I don't think they're going to win the division, but if I was going to make a bet on that division and you told me I couldn't take the Colts, I might just throw a couple of bucks on the Jaguars because I think the Titans are going to be in trouble. I think that Houston's in a really long rebuild.
Yeah.
I think what Jacksonville's going to ultimately be is a fun 6-11, a fun 7-10 team.
I hope so.
And we're going to say, they're going to be the articles 3 weeks in, wow, the Jaguars have fantasy value. Wow, I can't believe how good Christian Kirk is. Or wow, is Trevor Lawrence an every week starter now?
I don't think Marvin Jones is dead yet. I don't think Marvin Jones is done.
I think they're going to be fun. Yeah. I think they have decent coaching, or at least not Urban Meyer coaching. And I think they're the AFC's Lions without maybe the Hard Knocks bump.
That's a good call.
I love that. If Doug Peterson comes out and says that his team is biting any part of the opponent's team, then I'm in on it. I'm in. Put them on my television. That is 100%. I'm going in on the Jags. I love that. I love what you just said. There's gonna be some value there.
I've got one final question for you. It's about your style, and this is one of the most polarizing things in the industry right now is analytics and graphs, which you can see on Twitter all day long, or the eye test, or the gut. Some people call it trusting your gut.
Sure.
At 2 minutes till kickoff, and you're still between two guys, which do you prefer to go with? The one who the computer projects, who Yahoo's computers project to get 9, or somebody who's projected 6, but you just think is going to get more? For whatever reason, your eyes tell you this guy's better, or do you usually err on the side of the numbers?
It's a great question. I think back to fantasy baseball, where it used to be the scouts ruled the world, and baseball is easier sport to measure because it's almost all individual acts. The problem with football, it's all contextual, right? Randy Moss goes to the Raiders. He's kind of just another receiver. He goes to New England. He rewrites the record book. He's the star player he was in Minnesota. Goes to Tennessee. It's like he's out of the league.
Yeah.
Goes to San Francisco.
I forgot he went to Tennessee.
Yeah, so it's one of my favorite irony jerseys is Randy Moss on the Titans. People just forget it. It looks so wrong.
I forgot about that.
So you look at like Moneyball, right? The movie Moneyball. It's like, it's a little bit oversimplified. They make it like the scouts can't even tie their shoes or drive to the stadium without assistance, right? They make
They're
it
like
the biggest idiots, cavemen, right?
Yeah.
I would believe that you have to merge both. You have to be conversant in the numbers, but you also have to go on what you see. I'm not a professional football scout, but I've watched football for a long time. I try to rewatch every game every week. I usually don't get there, but I rewatch it as much as I can. What Yogi Berra said, you can learn a lot by watching, or you can observe a lot by watching, or something like that. I think I botched that quote, but I think you need to have numbers in your mind. You need to have your gut in your mind. At the end of the day, though, understanding it's a game about stats, it's a game about numbers. They are so important. If I'm going to side to one side, I'm more of a feel guy. And I'm not afraid. I often talk of a phrase I coined called friendliest loss, which is the idea that, okay, let's say you're in the fantasy playoffs and your two starting choices are between Travis Etienne and some guy the Bears picked up from the CFL who we've never even heard of, who's been like great the last 3 weeks. He's had three top 10 finishes in a row. Right. Who do you start? Or maybe he even just had one good game, okay? And somebody might say, well, you have to take Etienne. He was a first-round pick. I've never even heard of the CFL guy. If I think the other guy is the right play, I'll pick him. And some people might say, well, some people might say, well, I'll start Etienne because he was my third-round pick. And if I lose this because I played this guy I'd never heard of, I'm going to feel sick to my stomach. And I don't want to feel that way. Yeah. That, to me, is friendliest loss. It's the guy at the blackjack table who's got 15 against a king. He's like, well, I don't want to take a jack and bust, and then I'm out of the hand. Yeah. But it's the right thing to do when you have 15 against a king is hit. I'm not afraid of what's going to – I think losing, just as you guys would say, losing sucks. Yeah. I want to do what I think is the right move. And if that's playing Matt Castle, if that's playing a player I didn't know a month ago, I'm fine with it. If that's benching Christian McCaffrey because I don't know. I was in a big money league. I was a proxy owner. It was 2003 or 2004. I forget which season. We had Randy Moss. This league was old enough that you had to submit your starting lineup on Friday by fax machine.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? Or maybe you emailed.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so we had a loaded receiver room. We had Randy Moss, peak of his powers. We had Steve Smith, his breakout year. We had Santana Moss when he was really good. And Moss was on the injury out. Randy Moss was on the injury report. He's a first-round pick. He was having a great year. And sounded like his backup quarterback might play that week too. Wasn't sure if we should play Moss. And so I said, well, we have this up-and-coming receiver who I like. He's got a really good matchup Sunday night. I think they're going to score a bunch of points. I don't know Moss's status. I don't know the quarterback status. I know it sounds crazy to bench Randy Moss, but I think this other guy, and I know he's not a big name right now, I think he's going to be a really good player. Let's play the other guy. And I had final say on this team. I had power of attorney. So he said, okay, I think you're crazy for benching Moss, but we had to make the decision on Friday, and I hate that we had to. Right. So I played the other guy. Moss plays. Moss goes crazy. He has one of those Moss games. He goes for 175 and 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But the other guy was Reggie Wayne, who just wasn't Reggie Wayne yet. And the Colts play that night. The Colts play that night. Peyton Manning throws 6 touchdown passes, and none of them are to Reggie Wayne. Okay? Manning goes ballistic, and none of them to Wayne. Wayne has 3 catches for 42 yards, and the guy's screaming at me like, you idiot. But you know what? I thought Reggie...
The process was there.
That's the process, right. I was right that, look, we didn't know if Moss would play. We didn't know the Minnesota quarterback situation. I thought I had... and it wasn't like I thought Reggie Wayne was a solid wide receiver 3. I said, this guy's going to be great. Yeah. And this guy's tied to Peyton Manning. I really think something's going to happen here. And, we ended up winning that league. And, again, we had Moss. We had Steve Smith the year he broke out. Santana. We had 5 good receivers. We only could start 3 of them. And
Washington Santana Moss or Jet Santana Moss?
I think it was the Jet Santana Moss. I think he had a 7-game touchdown streak. He actually wasn't quite that good. But yeah, so we had both of the Mosses. We had Steve Smith when he first went nuclear. We had such a great team. Wow. But, yeah, I'm not afraid to. I know that looks stupid. You bench Randy Moss, but I'm not afraid to be that guy. And, sometimes you get it wrong. Here's the bottom line. This sounds like a lot of Jabberwocky. Let me just condense it.
Yeah.
Do what you think is right. Don't go by a rule of thumb. Don't go by what the fortune cookie says. Don't flip a coin. Don't go by the Yahoo projected scoring. Do what you think is right. If you think the right move is to play the name player, play the name player. If you think
That's
the
what
right
makes
move,
it fun.
Yeah, just do what you think is right. Because ultimately, you think playing the name player is going to make you sleep better at night. No, if you get it right, you're going to sleep better at night. If you get it wrong, if you wanted to play the fringy guy and he goes off, you're like, I knew it. I knew I should have played Jordan Donovan.
Bug you all week.
Just do what you
think.
think.
Started Craig Reynolds. What was I doing?
Exactly. And Craig Reynolds, right? He had that moment for Detroit last year. And also, here's the thing, okay? If Dustin's your guy, if Travis is your guy, if I'm your guy, if Andy's your guy, listen to everybody you respect, and then make your own decisions. Maybe Evan Silva's your guy, maybe JJ's your guy, maybe Harmon's your guy, whoever. There's a lot of good people in the industry, and I listen to the people I respect. Evan Silva can change my mind, or Adam Levitan can change my mind. But you know what? If Silva changes my mind and it's wrong, I don't go back to Evan and start barking at him. You
made your
decision.
choice. Yeah.
I made the choice. I'm responsible for my own choice. So listen to everybody you respect.
That's great advice.
Right? Measure, a bunch of times and then cut once. That's basically what I do.
I think it's important for people to get that inner circle, for lack of a better term, but your group, your core, that you run these hard decisions
your cabinet,
by, as opposed to looking at ranks from 4 different sites. Talk to the people that you trust and make your own decision, and they'll hurt with you and they'll have joy with you depending on which decision you make.
We all have a small circle. One of my best friends in the industry, and just one of my best friends period, is Frank Schwab, who's the lead NFL writer for Yahoo. And we have the bat phone. He can text me at any time and say if he has a tough decision. And he's a really sharp guy. He's not going to go for outside advice that often, but we have a really good rapport. If I had a tough choice and I needed to get we all need. I always say that we all need somebody to talk us out of a bad idea. We mentioned Chip Kelly earlier, right? Chip Kelly needed somebody to tap him on the shoulder and say, you know what, trading for Sam Bradford, bad idea. Don't do this. I think sometimes you can have too much power. You need somebody to tap you on the shoulder and say, this is a bad idea. That girl at the bar, you think you should go say hi to? No, go home. It's
you end up talking yourself through it and learning, why do I think this way, just by hearing their opinion. Even if you don't agree, you kind of examine your own thought process through that.
For sure.
Man, Scott, great stuff today, man. Great stuff.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I really, really enjoyed talking to you guys.
Man, it is. It's been awesome. It's been surreal. Thank you so much for taking the time with us, man. Look forward.
I'm gonna have to reach out to you and find a story to ask Andy. Andy's coming on September 6th, so think of something to open that show with.
I'm
sure you got 100 of them.
He's ducking me, man. Well, first, Barron's is a great guy. You will not find anybody in the industry who says anything less than glowing things about Andy.
I loved meeting him a couple weeks ago.
And you know what I love about Andy? Here's what I want people to know about Andy. Other than the fact he's such a really great guy, and I mean that. He's one of my very best friends in the industry and just the salt of the earth guy. But if sports went away, or the NFL went away, and we all had to have other jobs, he'd still be a writer. This guy wrote a book that was optioned into a movie. This guy's written children's books. He's a writer. Yeah, there's a movie he wrote a book called Sex Drive, which was, the book was called All the Way. And it was about some teenagers who met presumably a girl on the internet, and they were going to go drive to meet her.
What you're talking about.
And they called it Sex Drive. Seth Green was in the movie.
That was him?
That was him. And if you watch that movie... Wow. If you watch that movie, when they do the credits are like visual credits, and they actually show based on the book by Andy Behrens. And there's a picture of Andy Behrens in the credits.
Right now.
Sex Drive. I want you to ask him about Sex Drive for 50 minutes and the NFL for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, Travis, just scrap whatever we had planned for Andy on. We're not going to do the draft. It's literally just going to be talking about Sex Drive.
He also wrote a book called The Fast and the Furriest, which is a children's book. The point is, Andy is before he got into fantasy, he wrote for the Chicago Reader. I don't know if he did movie reviews or music, or he did some sports stuff. Andy's just a really bright guy, and he would be, if sports didn't exist, he'd either be a writer or a professor or something, because he's just really super sharp. And not only that, not only is he super sharp, but he doesn't need to rub anybody's nose in it, he's always one of the smartest guys in the room, but he's just so
He was the most humble guy I met.
Yeah, he really is. Awesome
guy.
And
the dude wakes up at ungodly hours to go run such far distances.
Yeah,
like it's 5:00 in the morning. He's dripping with sweat. Like, where were you? There's no pool around here.
All those bar stories I told you, like the rest of us would drag ourselves out of bed. Andy would be like, "Oh yeah, just did a light run, did a light 3 miles,
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. He's a robot, man. Great guy.
You blew my mind.
Give him hell. Give him hell.
Yeah, for sure.
Overrated shuffleboard play. Do not draft Andy Behrens in your bar shuffleboard.
Yeah, if we can send this out to the big, the top dogs in the shuffleboard community, can we set up this match? Okay, this is something that the people are needing, and
maybe at the expo next year.
But he's against big shuffleboard. He thinks big shuffleboard has ruined the game. It's taking it out of the Daily Pints, and it's trying to move it to the bigger venues, right? Like you see, like the NCAA tournament, where they move into like this really big venue and the players can't shoot because there's no depth perception,
Right.
Like anything else. Once it becomes big and money gets involved, it sometimes sullies it. We need to be back. We really need to be back in Santa Monica. In that divey little bar, the Daily Pint. Go to the Daily Pint.
It's something that's been said for years. Money has ruined shuffleboard.
It has.
Scott, thank you again. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate y'all listening to this. Hope you made it to the end of the podcast where you got. My life has changed. That movie was a huge part of my my teenage years. So that's amazing. Scott, thanks again. A million times thanks. I know Travis and myself are forever appreciative. Guys, that'll be it. Awesome show. This has been episode 65 of Losing Sucks. And as we like to end it every episode, remember, losing sucks. Don't do it.